Welcome to the Lovability Podcast. My name is Jennifer Stiers, and I'm here to talk love, relationships, sex, marriage, and everything in between. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lovability Show. I'm Jennifer Stiers, your host, and I am joined today for the second show of 2022 with one of my favorite people, Laura Charanza. You all remember her. She's been on the show before. And Laura had a podcast on narcissism, and so she's come on to talk about narcissism before. And now she's kind of switched her platform a little bit, which I'm really excited about because it kind of goes with today's theme as well. And that is she's got a new podcast called Out of the Dark. So interestingly enough, as we're talking about change and letting go of the old and grasping onto the new and opening ourselves up to new things, which is hard for people. That was one thing with the narcissist story that you were with for so long because you lived it, Laura. And Laura lived with a narcissist, and she grew up with a narcissist with her mother, and then she, is that okay to say?
Yeah, that's
your mom
okay.
Doesn't watch? Yeah. Okay. And then, so your mom doesn't watch. And then she married one. Which is normally how it goes. And so she's reliving that story, and that's what we all tend to do if we don't break the patterns, which again is what we're going to be talking about. But with her new podcast, Out of the Dark, I am very happy to say that she's going to be talking about more of the healing end of it versus staying stuck in the story of narcissistic abuse.
Exactly. We can sink, or we can survive, or we can thrive.
Yeah.
So it's time just to live your best life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know hey, Greg, good to see you. Amit, good to see you. Greg is a friend of mine. He's a therapist as well. Hey, Ron. And Greg and I chat sometimes after my show. He likes to tell me his opinion on everything as well. I know so many of my friends too that have struggled, have addiction in their family. And that's another thing too, is we were just talking about that before the show when we were talking about different types of addictions and what people's story are. Or is in regards to it. Are they recovered or are they in recovery? And I know there's two different perspectives on that, but we're going to talk about the recovered today.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of aspect to it. So you can't move on in your life until you can't move on until you have a new place to go, until you have an open space to move into. And a lot of times people are carrying their baggage around with them, Laura.
Yes.
You know this. They're carrying their baggage for a long time. And certain people can be attached to the story for different reasons. I mean, sometimes their story is kind of their backup plan, their fallback place, in a sense of they were physically abused, they were emotionally abused, they were a victim of narcissistic abuse, they were a victim of sexual abuse. I know I've been counseling for 25 years at least, not to age myself, but it is amazing. It is amazing how long people hang on to those stories, hang on to the pain. I mean, obviously repression has a portion in all of this. So people do repress things and because they don't want to deal with them, but they show up.
Well, it becomes part of your identity.
It does.
And I'm speaking from experience. It becomes part of your identity. And especially if you're codependent, which everybody, you're not just codependent when it comes to alcohol. If you have an
Right.
alcoholic in your family, you can be codependent if you've been with a narcissist,
Right.
even for a short time.
Right.
So, and that becomes part of your identity, and you become codependent with everything in your life.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, if that narcissist is gone, the booze is gone, the pills are gone, what's ever gone, you have this blank spot you've got to fill. And that's where I think we sometimes hang on to that identity from years ago. I don't know what you think, Jen, but
I think you're correct. I was just letting people know we're on.
Okay.
Yeah, because we skipped weeks this
Right.
week, so we're every other week.
and I'm
because
not used to
it's-
your time change yet either.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I like the 3:00 though. This is good.
Yeah, no, I like 3 o'clock too. My brain's actually moving and awake and
Yes.
and going, and that's super important for everybody. Trust me, it's really important for everybody. So ask me that last question again.
So when the pills are gone, the booze are gone,
Yeah.
the narcissist is gone, whatever it is that your life has revolved around, that is out of your life. If you don't have something to fill that, I think that's where we get attached to that recovery story.
Right.
We get attached to maybe we're like extremely gung-ho to help others instead of saying, well, what can I do to thrive? What can I do to live my best life ever?
Well, and that's such a great point because I think it's all about where we're putting our energy.
Yes.
And, what is it productive or is it non-productive? And staying in the story is non-productive. But take for example, I mean, this is a really good example from a therapeutic standpoint. As a counselor, as a therapist, we tend to be fixers, and it was a pattern that I had found over the years, many years ago. I realized it, thank God it was many years ago, but I was a fixer. And so what, of course, do? I find fixer-uppers. I was finding men when I was younger that needed to be fixed. And because that was my personality, that's what I did for a living, and everything was a project for me.
Right.
And so at a certain point I had to say, no more projects. People can fix themselves. And I have a really strong, very strong belief about people don't come to me. I'm not going to fix you. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to give you tools so you can fix yourself, so you can heal yourself. And that's what I do. So what did I do? Because I still had that energy, that nurturing, loving energy that I wanted to put into helping because it's who I am. I started an animal rescue. I shouldn't say that. I've been in animal rescue my whole life, but I put my energy into animals versus people because animals actually need the help where people can, with the right tools, help themselves. And it doesn't matter at what degree you're at, whether it's a painful breakup or whether you're dealing with addiction, or any other type of abuse. There are tools out there for everyone to use and utilize and understand to help get you through, which is some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today.
Right. And for those that have been with a narcissist, I am not discounting what you've been through. Trust me, decades here. So know that my heart is still with you. I am just hoping to help people move forward more quickly. I want you guys to thrive.
Right. Right.
To live, you can live your best life. You really can.
Laura and I last week were having a chat, which made me really want to talk about this more.
While your cat jumped on the table.
Yeah. Yes, on the kitchen table. But we were having a chat about this and talking about her story of the narcissistic, because she's been whirling around in it for a while, as we all do. If you're going to therapy, sometimes therapy isn't therapeutic anymore if it's not letting you, if you're having to revisit the story and revisit the story and revisit the story and revisit the pain and feel it again. And, it's not helping. It's not helping. And there's not enough therapists, in my opinion, functional ones, because I've been doing it for a long time from a cognitive therapy standpoint.
Right.
They're actually helping people, giving them tools to get past things.
Right.
And that's what you need, we all need, because staying in our place and complaining, and not that you were, I'm just saying, but if you're
I used
swimming,
to, Jen. I used to.
yeah, if you're swimming in your dysfunction all the time, if you're swimming in your problem, if you're swimming in your pain, that's all that you're going to see. You're not going to be able to get out of it.
Right.
You know? And so you've got to visit the story long enough, visit the pain long enough, visit whatever it has brought you, and then be able to acknowledge what it is, decide how, and I think this is a key part, everyone, decide how it's, how you've used it to your advantage. Because I think a lot of people, as sad as it is, for, let's just say they don't trust men, right? Which usually that's deep rooted in something in childhood. But if they don't trust men and they attract a lot of cheaters, then they have bad behavior as they're in a relationship with these cheaters. They have this really bad behavior where they'll start questioning and doubting and hounding a guy and not trusting when the guy hasn't given maybe any reason at all yet.
Yes.
Because he probably will, since
You're being accused
that's
of it.
what she, well, that's what she attracts. But point being, you're forgiven, Jamie, for being late, but better late than never. We're glad you're here.
That's yeah.
But having said that, so she has these attitudes and these actions that she's been doing that are going to push a man away. And then she's validated that the man's going to go away and he couldn't be trusted and he wasn't all that he was. So her belief that all men are whatever is validated.
But it's actually starting with her, right?
Yeah.
It's actually starting here and here.
Yeah. She's the one that pushed him away. And then her story is going to be validated when it's not true, when it's not true at all. Because if we had actually extended trust, first of all, gotten healthy, attracted the right person, and then extended trust and held that even in times of insecurity, held on to the fact that this is not who I had before. This is not what happened to me before. This is not my previous experience. This is a whole new chapter in my life. And until you give that new person the benefit of a doubt and start walking in that, you'll never know.
And those are the tools you were talking about that you can give people and other therapists can give people.
Yes.
On how to say, stop that thought right now.
Right.
And I need to remember what my healthy thought is.
Yes. Where are you moving? And I think that's the place where we need to focus when we're trying to move forward. Is number one, we have to know when we're trying to let go of things, we have to know where we're going. So we need a new roadmap. So you first need to identify what you want to let go of. What isn't serving you in your life? What isn't making you happy? Who isn't making you happy? What behaviors are you exhibiting or are you allowing in your life? What people are you allowing in your life that are toxic to you? What do you need to let go of? And if you haven't done that yet for the new year, it's time to do it.
Exactly.
You got to put your list together. What do you need to let go of? What are the things, actions, behaviors, thoughts that you need to let go of? And some of those might be your own limiting beliefs.
I had a client ask me today, she goes, how do you look at other people and trust them? She goes, I think everyone's a narcissist. So what do I do? And I talked to her about just that neutral attitude. When you meet someone, there are two things that reveal character. It's time and a crisis. And if you let either one of those happen or both of them pass, the time pass and perhaps a crisis comes in your life or his life, then you can see what the character of that person is. You don't have to judge right away. And I also told her, and let me know what you think, listen to your body.
Yeah.
Because I can tell if I'm uncomfortable around someone, I'm nervous or walking on eggshells, then I need to get out of there.
We also need to be able to differentiate between our stuff, our toxic thoughts and our insecurities, and what would be our intuition. Because sometimes people don't know the difference. And I think I agree with you. If you're healthy and strong and you've done the work and you are very in tune with things and your intuition is strong, you need to know when it's your intuition or when it's your insecurities talking.
Right.
And that's the harder part, I think, for some people, because they'll call their insecurities intuition. Or they'll call their intuition insecure, whatever. I've seen that the opposite happen. So it's super important that we listen, watch people. And I think we can tell somebody's character in so many ways.
Yes.
I mean, you listen to I mean, I have the best job and the worst job. So what I do for a living is listen to people. I am the best listener in the whole wide world. It works to everyone's disadvantage because if you're a client of mine, it's an advantage because I will hear every inconsistency.
Right.
Yeah, I will hear every, and I'm saying this because you guys can do this too. If you listen really closely, hear every inflection in somebody's voice. And people tell stories. And if you listen really closely, you'll see inconsistencies in their stories. I've had people tell me stories about something that happened that day. And maybe they told me the one story earlier and they'll tell me again, and they're two different stories. And they don't realize they just lie. I just saw their character.
Sure.
I don't need anything else. What other red flags do you need? You know exactly who they are.
Exactly.
So if you listen without judgment and without a preconceived anything, you'll know who somebody is if you've got trust issues.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly.
Didn't mean to go so far into that, but we were talking about moving forward. You have to know what your triggers are, what your patterns are, and all of that, and what you want to let go of. So you have to know what you want to let go of. And then you've got to be able to say, what do I want? What do I want to create? If you have no roadmap for what you want in the future, if that's a healthy relationship, if that's a certain thing in your life, if that's a change in your career, if that's a change in your lifestyle, whatever that is, you've got to know that because that's where you're headed. Right? It's almost like you got to throw the ball out there. You got to know where you're going, right?
Because that time's going to get here anyway, right? 3 years will be here anyway.
Yeah.
So you can plan and make it great, or you can sit back and let things happen to you.
Yes. And what happens, I was doing this with Laura the other day, is so many people carry their stuff in. So they're like, oh, I'm going to set goals. I'm going to do this year. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And they set their goals out there. I'm going to attract a healthy relationship. I'm going to fall in love. I'm going to get married. I'm going to attract the right guy or girl. And yet they've got all of their insecurities and all of their doubts and all of their dysfunction and all of their patterns. They've got all of that they're carrying with them. And it's here. And if, like when I'm out of my peripheral vision, it's right there, right? I'm moving here, but my stuff is still here. I can still see it, right? And we would do the work and we do the work and we do the work and we try to push it behind us, right? It's not till it's here, till it's gone, where I can't see it anymore, until it's behind me and
It's dead and buried.
Yeah,
Yep.
we've made the choice to let it go, that we can actually move forward, that we've created this entire space now to move forward instead of hanging on to bringing in the same dysfunction, the same junk, the same limiting thoughts and beliefs that we do every single time. We have to put it behind us. What does that mean? Decide what you want to let go of and put it behind you. Some of this, people, is mental. I mean, some of this can be done. I mean, people are thinking, well, how do you put it behind you? It's this thought and that thought. The brain is a very powerful thing, and you have to utilize your brain in the best way you can. And neuroscience plays a big role in all of this. Neurosemantics is something I studied, and that is kinesthetically, how do you envision or visualize you putting this stuff behind you, right? I mean, it could be physical acts. I know one year I took a group of people up to Sedona, and everybody put all the things in, they wrote down all the things they wanted to let go of. We wrote it on this thing, something called flash paper. So we wrote it on flash paper, and everybody had this little pot with their flash paper of all the things they wanted to let go of. And then we, at midnight on New Year's Eve, we lit it on fire, and the flash paper lights on fire and then goes out. And so they just kind of blew it up, right?
Very cool.
You can bury it. You could take it, you can bury it. You can throw it in the trash can. I mean, there's a million things you can do with your stuff. So kinesthetically, sometimes we are such visual people, and
Right.
we're tangible. We have to touch things.
Right.
So that's why I always recommend do whatever it is.
I've got one that's easy that
What?
I have some of my clients do. Two, one they burn. We write a letter to the person who has hurt you, and we pray about it because one of these is faith-based, and then we burn it and we let it go. And it's a big relief. But another one, it's really cool. They'll hate you at the balloon store, but you get as many balloons as things you need to let go. And then you have each balloon symbolize something in your life. Like if you need to let go of a toxic parent or a toxic relationship, a toxic business partner.
Right.
That I've been through recently, that's what you do. And then you can let it go. And your brain registers that you've let it go up to the heavens or wherever it may be.
Right. Right. No, I love that. I'm a big fan of that. So I love the balloons. That's fun.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
fun. So I also, from the standpoint of moving forward, so in the creation phase, and I haven't talked about this in a while, but the prayer box. I went looking for prayer boxes for people this year and couldn't find them for Christmas. But
Those are really cool. I
yeah.
don't do one, but I should.
yeah, so the prayer box is basically any kind of box you can get. Look, good Lord, my hair today.
It's fine.
So the prayer box is basically just a little box you can open. It could be a little jewelry box, whatever. And you take it and you put all of your stuff in it. I know there's one over there, but it's so big, I don't want to grab it. But you basically you write down all the things, all of your dreams, your goals, your wishes, and you put it on paper, on physical paper, and you put them in the box. So then you if you can make it a smaller trinket box, that's great, because then you can. I always like to put it on my fireplace, so it's kind of like the altar. And so for me, it's significant because you put all of your dreams, hopes, and wishes, all of your prayers into the box. You put it up on the altar, or you put it in whatever place you want to put it, and then that you signify giving those to God. So as a Christian. For me, it's once you have said a prayer, once you have asked God for what you want, you don't have to ask him again. Every prayer is heard and every prayer is answered already. So if we can remember that, we put the prayer box away. The next time we go to think about whatever it is that hasn't shown up,
Right.
that we don't have yet, that we want, that we desire, it's in the box. And I always say, don't worry about it.
Right.
Don't think about it. Don't talk
out of
about
your
it. Don't
control
bitch about
anyway.
it. Yep. Because you gave it to God. And who's going to go back to that box and pull it out?
Right.
Who's going to go take it away from God and go, hey, remember this that I gave you? Remember when I told you I wanted this?
He's not going to give it to you anyway.
Yeah, don't take anything back from God. That would not be a good thing.
No, he's not going to give it back.
Yeah. So, I'm sure he would. I mean, if you want to control it and you want your will, I'm sure he would. But he's way more powerful than us, so why not just leave it in the box?
Right.
Why not leave it with him? And so the prayer box signifies, it just gives you that little reminder that God's got this. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I already prayed about it. I already gave it to him. It's on its way. I just need to be patient. And so I think that, as we're moving in these places of what do we need to leave behind and what do we want moving forward, there are physical tools that we can use to create those spaces for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've heard of the prayer box with putting, negative emotions and negative incidents that have happened in your life. But I love the idea of the positivity.
Yeah.
And the altar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes. That's interesting because I never heard of putting the stuff that you didn't fix in there, because now it's just dangling,
Yeah.
Like
like a prayer, say a woman wants to have children and she's not able, that she
oh yeah, she's giving it to God. So that's a prayer. Yeah.
Yeah. Things like that.
Yeah.
That's
So the other thing that I think we all need to think about when it comes to dating and relationships, because there's the life stuff and the limiting belief stuff, and then there is relationship stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, you need to leave your expectations for what you want It's okay to have standards, but you need to leave your expectations behind. This is where you ladies, especially, I do this for a living as a matchmaker. I do this for a living. Ladies, you have the hardest time with leaving your expectations at the door. Women that are open, men that are open, men, this goes for you too, because I know some of you too that are so stuck on what you think you want, what you think is your type, what you think you need, what you think you deserve. You're so stuck on that it's stopping you from finding what you might actually need. Because if what you thought you needed was actually what you needed, then you wouldn't still be single, right?
Right.
So this is super important stuff when it comes relationally. You all shoot yourself in the foot sometimes, you really do. Making decisions about,
You call it like you see it,
making
Jen.
judgments about people. I mean, I just things like,
Yes.
let me just tell you, like I see people go look at other people's social media pages, make judgments about their social media pages and refuse to go out with them. They look at their job and say, well, they have this job. They must make this much money. They must be this kind of simple person. This is the absolute craziest stuff I've ever heard, because you never, ever know where God's going to bring your person to you.
Right.
And if you're not open to, now granted, if you're online dating, I'm a matchmaker, so it's different because I'm connecting people already on core stuff. If you're on online dating, it's a hodgepodge of crap out there. So you could be getting a hodgepodge of crap also. So
yes, over and
over
again.
To be more
Right.
More discerning on online dating, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a mess. And I know I have Jasmine here. Jasmine, we've talked about the online dating thing. Some of you that are on here, we've talked about what a absolute mess it is. But you have to be more discerning if you're doing something like that. But at the same time, if what you were doing was working, you'd already have found your person. So you've got to be open. You've got to be open. Laura has such a spirit. Laura's single, and you have such an amazing spirit and openness with people and this non-judgmental spirit. And that's everyone. That's so important. I cannot tell you how important that is, because judgment squashes things. If you're judging somebody, they feel your energy. I don't care if it's a friend, a partner, a new date. If you're sitting across from somebody for the first time on a first date and you don't like what they're wearing or what they're saying or their story or something about what they said, they know. Yeah. They feel it already. We've got to be able
your energy
to
changes.
Leave, right? leave our expectations and our judgments behind when we're meeting new people, because I can tell you everyone's got great things about them. I'm trained to find them because my eye wants to see the good in people, and I'm always going to keep that, regardless of what this world looks like at times. I always want to keep that, the eye for what God sees when he sees somebody. And we should be looking for the same thing instead of judging. And it's so important. And ladies, again, I love you all so much. And I'm a woman, so I get it. You can overcome that. You can
have a list, but sometimes we need to lose parts of the list. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Do you remember me telling you about, her name's Rebecca Lynn Pope. She just got a show on Oprah, by the way. Super cool. Wonderful life coach, spiritual coach. She said, I'm never marrying a pastor. She's been married twice before, both abusive relationships, but I'm never marrying a pastor. My dad was a pastor. She has found the love of her life, and guess what? He's a pastor. Because she opened herself up to that. And she says if anything ever happens to Carrie Pope, her husband, she will never marry again because he is her soulmate, her one and only.
That's awesome.
And she says, just because I crossed that off my list and said no more.
Wow.
Yeah, I just love her stories. But
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's a great story. I mean, when you think about the I will never,
right.
And the whole judgment about, what you won't do anymore.
Exactly.
Now I do think it's important to bring discernment, bring that never, as you're leaving behind what you don't want, to make sure you leave the wisdom and discernment.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny. I did my post today was, would you ever want to meet somebody for a second time around, and
Absolutely.
maybe like ever have that opportunity to meet somebody a second time and make a different decision. And you know, it's funny because I'm a firm believer in there are no mistakes, but with discernment and wisdom, we can make better decisions. So it'd be so great if we could go back to our past with the discernment and wisdom that we have and then make a different decision in our life.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
But since we can't.
But we can't.
Since it's reality and we can't.
Life is what lived forward but understood backward.
Yeah. So we can take that. So now we have that information. Like if, you know, you were with somebody that was abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally, narcissistically, which if it's all the above.
Yes. All of it.
If you were with somebody like that, you have to use your discernment. So there's an element of leaving behind your judgment, right? But you have to always bring your discernment with you. And it's so different than judgment, right?
Right. It's listening to your intuition and making sure it's your intuition. It's feeling your body. It's using the wisdom that you've learned.
Right. And paying attention to if anybody's been a victim of any type of abuse or, and I say, even if it's infidelity,
right,
you know, in a marriage, you kind of know the signs to look for, right? So you keep those in a file. You keep them in a file and you're watchful. You're aware, I should say. You're aware. But you're not looking for it.
Because if you continue to look, you heard that? You'll find it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We can create whatever it is that we're thinking about. We can definitely do that. We are masters at moving our mind to where even if we're focused on what we don't want, our energy is still focused in that to create it. So, you know, I always use the example, I don't know if I did that with you, but when kids, you know, when they're walking through, let's say they go to the kitchen, they get a big glass of milk.
Right.
And they're walking through the living room with this big glass of full milk. And this is super important, everyone, when we were talking about your mind and what you're putting in your mind to move forward and to make strides versus keeping yourself limited. Your limited thoughts. So child's walking through the living room with a big glass of milk and there's like no room. And you're sitting there thinking, he's going to spill it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's going to spill it.
Yeah.
So what do you say? You
That's
say,
what kids do.
What do you say?
Be careful.
That's what you say. Correct.
Don't trip.
You don't say, don't trip. See that you don't say don't trip. You don't say don't spill it. Because what you're saying, if you say, hey, don't spill that, all of a sudden, maybe he wasn't thinking about spilling it. He was focused on walking with it. Now he's focused on not spilling it, which is still spilling it.
Exactly.
It's still the energies in spilling it. And so it's what your mind reads. I know it doesn't seem like much, but we feed our mind and our subconscious mind, and that's how the brain works. So we just fed our brain spilling it versus hold that still, be careful with it, you know, and then what are we focused on? Holding it still, being careful, holding it still, being careful. So it's a different mindset, and it's the same way with our life and our thoughts and where we move forward and you hear people say, well, let's try not, you know, oh God, what is that? How do people say it? Because I always reframe them. They'll say, they'll try not to do it. Let's try not to do. Why don't you try to do it? Why don't you just do it?
Yes.
You know, yes. I mean, so many people focus on what they don't want and they don't want to do. Let's try not to do that this time. Well, what do you want to do?
What are you going to do? Let's try to do the positive thing.
Yeah. So your mind moves where your thoughts direct it. And so when it comes to limiting beliefs, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough. All that stuff, all that stuff. Guys, you're not wealthy enough. I mean, I know that comes into play in your world as well. People fall in love every day that from all different, I mean, you guys look around. If you're on social media, look around. Everybody that you see falling in love and getting married isn't perfect. Right?
Right.
They're not
right.
all beautiful, perfect people. There's no perfect people, but you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter. All the little imperfections that you see and you're focused on don't matter. Your limiting beliefs only keep you from getting what you want. They're limiting you from what you want. So it's a matter of redirecting you have to redirect your mind and thoughts. Yes, you may not be Miss America.
Thank goodness.
I know. I actually watched that. I never watched TV, and somehow I caught the episode of what was his name?
Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
I saw him, and he was hosting it this past year.
Yeah, I kept it moving.
And I'm watching these girls, and I have to be honest. Sorry, there was a few pretty ones, but for the most part, I was not impressed. I was not impressed. So it doesn't matter what everybody's definition of beauty is different.
It's different. Totally different.
Right. And so,
or handsome guys. It's totally different.
Absolutely. Yeah. And by the way, that's another thing, the limiting belief
that
wise.
would get her moving.
I know, looks wise. You guys have this preconceived idea about what you think you want looks wise. You might be surprised if you met somebody. I can't tell you the amount of pictures I've seen versus people I've met. And when I meet them in person, they may take 1,000 horrible pictures. You meet them in person and they're amazing.
Right.
Right? That in-person person is different. So you've got to give yourself a chance. And if I told you how many times I've set people up on dates, and even after a first date, they're like, not typically my type. Now they're married.
Right.
Now they're married because it grew, and that person's heart and energy and love and all their connection grew on them, and they became more attractive, and then the chemistry was present. So it's super important that we keep our mind focused on what we want, right? And are staying in a positive space about it, because you will bring about, negative things if you think negative things. And if you keep your stuff in your space, if you don't move it out of your space, which is what today's about, if you don't make the decision and know and are aware of what you want to move, you're not going to move it. It's not going anywhere. You can't move forward and decide all the stuff that you want with the same crap you're carrying around. Different bag, right?
Right. And what I do with some of my clients, Jen, is we talk about the crap, and then we write down the flip side, what they want. Like if you have that feeling, I'm not enough. Every day I want you to tell yourself, you are enough.
Right.
I'm not worthy. You are worthy. I'm not smart. You are smart. Whatever those limiting beliefs are. I'm a terrible mom, whatever it is.
You have to back that up, though, because yes, the brain,
right,
the subconscious mind will grab the positive thought,
right,
but energetically you have to be in line with it. And so there are a few key things like worthiness and safety. People that never felt safe growing up, maybe they were abused or sexually abused.
Right.
Those are two big ones. The I am safe conversation is huge. You can't just say I'm safe and not, if you're
all
not
of a sudden
safe.
believe it.
Yeah,
True.
because in your physiology, you're still not feeling safe. So from a physiology standpoint, you have to be able to move your nervous system and your physiology to a point where, and it's priming it and prepping it with neurological tools to be able to actually feel safe without doing anything really different. You have to prep yourself, but you can change the nervous system and what it's triggering, and how it's triggering and what it's triggering, and it's not that hard to do. I know some of you that have gone through Anthony Robbins courses. I know Jasmine's watching from California. Jasmine just went through Anthony Robbins, and he does some things with neurosemantics that move You change your physiology, you change your nervous system. I mean, it goes down to as far as, when you're trying to be awake. There's been times I've been on the phone where I'm about to fall asleep. If I change my physiology and I sit up straight, I'm like, okay, I'm slouching. I want to fall asleep. I could fall asleep, but if I change my physiology and I sit up straight and I put a smile on my face,
Right.
it changes my physiology. It actually sends signals to my body to change and shift certain things. Adding a smile to your face actually changes your mood and your physiology and your cells and everything to match that. So there's all kinds of tools you can use too, like those things, to put yourself in a different state to bring about the change. You can't just say or declare something to be different and it's different because it's not. But where you can, like what you were talking about, where you say, I don't want an abusive relationship. I want a healthy relationship. How do you create that healthy relationship? Well, you can't just say, I want a healthy relationship.
And then it happens. Yeah.
You've got to define it. So you can actually take everything, like a lot of people are focused on the negative. So if they do that list of all the things they don't want.
That's what I was saying. We don't write it down. We just think about that limiting thought. And then
it's really,
put down
that's fine. Yeah.
The affirmation.
Yeah. And then you just change it out. So the limiting belief is, I can't find a healthy partner. I'll never fall in love again.
Yeah.
And then changing that thought to, I am just waiting to meet my soulmate, or the love of my life is on his way or her way. And then, maybe backing that up with things to support that. I'm getting healthier. My space is more open. I've done the work. I'm ready for this person. I've started dating healthier guys or girls, and my choices have gotten better. So now you're starting to validate your thought. So that builds confidence in the actual ability for that to come true and make a change. So people don't give themselves enough credit in things, in saying that they have got to. You put a thought out there, you put out something that you want or you need or you desire, you got to back it up. You've got to sometimes give yourself evidence that it's there or on the way.
Yeah, that's great. Evidence. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of got on a rant there. Sorry, guys.
I am so surprised that never happens.
I know, it never happens. Okay, so let's see. I think letting go of victim mentality and blame is a big thing. So we talked about that too. You were talking about that because you have dealt with a lot of victims dealing with narcissistic abuse.
Like my friend who's the 4th grade teacher calls them Vicky the victims when the little kids are in her class and they're always hurt on the playground or whining, tattletales. She's like, let's not be Vicky the victim.
God, I know so many adults that are Vicky the victim,
Yeah.
And anyway,
and you can get out of that cycle. You can.
Yeah. Well, people hang on to it because there's a comfort zone in it. So when they make a mistake, or when instead of owning up to the mistake, or when they do something that's out of character, instead of owning up to it, they can use that victim mentality to say, well, I was abused, or I had a partner that was unfaithful, or I was sexually abused when I was younger, or I, was an alcoholic, or what, I don't know, just whatever the victim mentality is. You use it because now it gives you an excuse. Now it gives you someone to blame besides yourself.
Good point.
Because all victims, it's all about not taking accountability. When you're a victim, you're not taking accountability for what is in front of you, or what you've created, or what you've brought about. There are no victims. Now, I won't say that. I thought about that earlier. There really are victims. There are people that are victims of crimes and things like that. And
sexual assault.
Yes. Those are true victims. Sadly, people that are sexually assaulted a lot of times blame themselves.
I know.
So they actually were victims and blame themselves. We were chatting. I feel like this is this is an important, I want to make sure before we go that we talk about that thing that we discussed, if you don't mind. I should have asked you ahead of time, where we talk about the fact that sometimes people are just projecting their stuff onto you too. And I want to get there.
Right.
Or sometimes
right.
it's not yours. So let's talk about boundaries next.
Right.
Just keep me on point because
Okay.
I want to finish this thought.
Right.
But you have to, changing your story and your pattern is really important because you're using it. So you always have to look. If you've got a story and it's, I come from physical abuse. I come from, mental instability in my home. I come from a family where I was deprived love. I come from, my father abandoned me, my mother abandoned me, my mom didn't love me, my dad didn't love me. All of these stories that you have, you're using that. If you fall back on that as an adult, that's what happened to you. It's not who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you're falling back on it, you're using it as a story. It's not reality and it's holding you back. So some people need to hear that again. I'm not going to say it again because I don't know how to say it again. When I say something once, that's it. It's gone. But
I think if I can say this, that you are not shaming people for that. It's just you have to figure that out. And you have to get help from people like you and other therapists and work through it, and then you can leave it behind. Because sometimes people that hang on to it haven't even worked through it, Jen.
You're 100% correct. I love that you said I'm not shaming them for that because I'm not.
And I'm super sensitive to shame, and I know you're not.
Yeah.
I know you're not.
Yeah. But that didn't even enter my space because all I'm doing is telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'm not shaming people. If you feel shamed, which is, by the way, the lowest energy on the energetic scale, guilt and shame are the very lowest energies you could ever feel. If you feel guilt or shame, it is 100. Any guilt or shame in your life is 100% preventing you from moving anywhere forward in your life.
And I said that out of the space and the memory that I remember. I was so broken down that I didn't know where to go. Like I didn't have you. I didn't have anyone yet. And I had to go find a therapist.
Your own tools.
Yeah. And once I had a therapist and then Rebecca, it was like, all right, this is good. But I didn't even know where to turn.
Yeah. So when you've been a victim of abuse, you've been told you're less than. You've been told it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's your doing. You brought it about. And so there's a lot of shame.
You can't do anything right.
Right.
I can't trust you to do anything.
All those limiting beliefs.
All those limiting beliefs.
Yes. But shame is not something that will ever enter into this space because I don't necessarily think shame serves any purpose at all.
No, it just hurts people.
Any purpose.
It just hurts people.
Yeah, lowest form of energy. Jamie says, and Victor the victim.
Sorry, Jamie.
That. No, that's good. I like it.
Victor.
So, the other thing that that Laura and I had talked about, we were talking about boundaries, and this is one of my very favorite exercises because in order to move on and away from things and people that aren't good for you, we have to know boundaries. And like you had talked about codependency earlier. I think everybody's got a little bit of codependency in them, but in order to move forward, we have got to be able to put a boundary around us and decide. We make the decision. We are adults. What are we going to accept? What are we going to allow in? What are we going to keep out? And that's really important. So I always teach everybody, like if I'm putting my hands up, I hope I'm going to see that. If I did this around me, like I put my hands around me in front and I drew a big circle around me. So my hands went all the way around me. This circle would be my boundary. What's inside of it? If I look inside there, it's just me. I'm the only thing inside of here. What's outside of the circle? Everything else, everybody else and everything else. I decide what comes in and I decide what I put out into it. Sometimes I don't decide what I put out very well, but
oh no, yes you do.
I do not have much of a filter these days. But having said that, we decide what we put out and what we let in. But the let in part is super important for everyone listening because you need to be responsible for what you put out.
Right. And remember this, for me, I use this sometimes with talking about control. We can only control this.
Yeah.
We can't control what's going on out there and how other people treat us. We can just say, well, you're not getting any further.
Yes, absolutely. So mine, yours, and everybody else's, right? So
my stuff, your crap.
Exactly. You decide who you let in. You decide who you keep out. If somebody says something to you, if they say you suck, you're ugly, you're fat.
First of all, are we in 8th grade?
Yeah, I'm just using a obvious insult,
But I've heard that from adults.
The very first reaction to somebody attacking you like that should be not to accept that.
Yes.
I'm not letting that in.
No.
That's not about me. That's about them. What in the world would ever allow somebody to hurl an insult at somebody like that and hurt them intentionally? That's about the kind of person they are. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
It may be stated in their opinion. They may actually think that, or they may just be saying it to hurt you. Either way, we make decisions of whether we're going to keep it out or let it in, right? And so, letting it in then requires a lot of backup work as to what you're going to do with it. Why hold it, right? So set proper boundaries with yourself and with your life. What energies are you going to allow in this new year? What things are you going to allow in? What people, what experiences, and what are you not? Because the minute you see them, feel them, walk into them, you're out. You're done. This is not something I do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
like last year, I said no more toxic people, even friends.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And my life got so much better.
And
you can let them go with love.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can just kind of be busy a lot every day.
I'm a very outgoing person, but I was very social a long time ago. And I personally I'm not a big social person. Like I have to talk to people all day. And there's so much
a lot of energy,
doesn't it? All day. When my day's over, I don't want to talk to y'all. And I'm that person. I'm that person that my boundary is I will turn my phone ringer off. I won't turn my phone off, but I'll turn my ringer off and I won't look at it. I'll go plug it in and walk away.
Right.
I may get a text or a phone call from somebody, maybe it's in a client, in the evening. I'm out. They're not getting a response back because, it's not because I don't like them or because I'm mad at them or, whatever. It's because this is my time and I need it and this is mine. And just because you need something or something's important to you, I'm going to make a decision whether it's an emergency and it's important or whether it's not. And so you have to make those decisions daily. It's like you could have a list of energy and people and all that stuff, but on a daily basis, you've got to be aware enough to what's coming in as to know what you need to, this is what I'm going to feel, this is what I'm going to allow in, this is who I'm going to be, this is what I want to do. Even saying no to things,
It's like those friends that always have emergencies. You've got to make the decision, their emergency is not necessarily mine.
Yes.
To protect your energy. I have to do that.
Yes. Or cutting people like that completely out. I hate to say that, but if, people like that are constantly taking from you, that constantly need, and there's constantly a crisis, cutting people with all that drama out of your life, guys, it's freeing. I'm just telling you, that is the most freeing thing. The minute you see it, get out. Would you
even do that? So I'm going to ask like a client therapist question. So would you even do that if you are all they have? I am all this former client has.
I would refer them to somebody else. I would. Because you're not doing them any good if you're in resentment of what they're doing for you.
Yes.
So if your energy...
It's exhausting.
If your energy is showing up and you don't really want to do it, you don't really want to be there, they're basically coming in and vomiting in your space, not asking you permission per se, probably. But if it's not what you want, refer them out to somebody else.
Yeah, she has no money, so That's the bleeding heart in me, but still not okay. I know. I thought you would say that. I knew you would say that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, even I will even say, and I know how we do in time, even with friends. Like sometimes when I go out to dinner with friends, you have those people that always bring up their problems and their stuff. I'm off.
Yeah, I'm off the clock.
I'm off. Yep. I love you, but I'm off. And so I know a lot of times people will say, "Well, Jen, you're analyzing me. You're listening. No, I'm not. I'm off. I'm not analyzing. I'm just existing." But you have to energetically decide what you're going to allow in and what you're going to keep out.
I totally agree. Mm-hmm.
And so boundaries are really, really important to keep in mind.
And tough love on yourself. Hello. I just learned something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Again, I think that whole element of we always have to look as givers. Every one of you that are givers out there that give to a fault, the sentence says it all. When you're giving more than you have, when you're giving beyond what you can give, when you're giving from not a space of love and gratitude and servitude, which is where it usually comes from, and even to a place where you probably can't help this person. Some of these people that are constant complainers like that and have constant drama.
And isn't that part of codependency is when you are putting other people ahead of your own well-being?
Yes, 100%.
Thought so.
Yep. So you're not taking care of yourself. If you can't take care of yourself and set those boundaries, you can't take care of anybody else anyway.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah. And we're not serving them because we're keeping them in their story. You're not actually helping her. What you're doing is you're enabling her.
Okay.
So, yeah, or him or whatever it is. Okay. So what if it's a drama child? Way drama. A boyfriend's drama child. A drama child. Girl, I'm out.
How much do you love him?
That's a great question, Cindy. At a certain point, because that's if it's a boyfriend or a husband, blended families can be really tough. But if it is a child from somebody else, I know people that have gotten through it. They've just worked their way through it. But everybody's got to be coachable and open in the situation. So you can choose not to accept it. You can walk away from it. You can say, you know what? If this is what you want to deal with and you want to enable this, I'm going to let you, but it's not a conversation I'm willing to have. And so if it's your partner's drama child, let your partner deal with their drama child. And if they want your help, they're going to have to do it a new way.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Great advice.
So, yeah, it's not healthy for sure. Okay, Cindy, I love you. I thank you guys. Jamie, thank you for listening. And all of you, really. I love seeing the same faces. I love you guys coming back and joining us every week or every other week. I'll be back to normal again in March. So February, we're going to go every other week. So next week, no podcast. Week after that, podcast. I'm kind of planning something for Valentine's Day. It's in the works. I'm trying. It's a short amount of time. We're almost there, but I'm trying to put something together for all you singles for Valentine's Day. Even amidst all the junk going around, I know we want to get back to living. So I'm going to try to put something together. So let me know, send me a message or comment here if you guys are interested in doing something for Valentine's Day, meeting new people, party, socializing, face-to-face connections again. So that's it. Okay. Love you all. Thank you for listening. Laura, thank you for joining me.
Always glad to be here.
What is the name of your new podcast again? Where can they find you?
Out of the Dark. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, believe it or not, much to my son's chagrin. Instagram.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. This is Jennifer. Thanks for listening today. And please subscribe to the podcast. Every single week we'll have new information. And if you'd like to find out more information or if you have any questions, please go to my website at lovejen.com or you can find me on Facebook at my personal page, Jennifer Stiers.